Hello, everyone, and welcome to DmJunkies, the show by DMs for DMs, where we show you your newest edition of Dungeons and Dragons. And I want to start off by saying Happy New Year to everybody in 2020. I know this video is pre-recorded at the beginning of January, and it probably won't come out until near the end of January. But can we just take a moment? It is going to be double critical this whole year, and I am so excited for what the future holds for the Adventures.initiative channel and for each and every one of you. Now, that out of the way, could my guest please introduce himself?
First off, I just want to say that was a brilliant intro, and I loved that. I am Brett, or just Brett on TikTok. I'm the CloakedDM known by many. Been a D&D lover for a very long time, and a big fan of our lovely host.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Sweetheart, I adore you.
Oh, yay! Well, anyways, this is the topic that we're going to be talking about. Kind of falls into what we talked about with the Jay the Fae interview. And if you guys haven't checked that out, you guys can totally go back in that video and check it out. But if you already have, welcome. We're going to talk a little bit on the idea of improv. So this might be like an improv part 2. You don't know. So you told me earlier that you have a couple campaigns that you run, and a couple of them you do on live streams, and you have like 2 others that you do, correct?
I do, yes. I currently am running 4 campaigns, 2 that are being currently broadcasted, 2 that are currently not because of privacy and time reasons.
Yeah, that's really cool. So could you please describe to me like your, like, not your favorite world, but a world that you currently have like created or something, or brag about a world that you have formed with you and your players?
Sure. Each one of the campaigns are actually taking place in the same world. The campaign that's on Saturday, which is on one of the TikTokers, Nani, I don't have the link in front of me. I probably should have prepared that.
I'll cut this out, but you can send that link to me, and I'll send it to Shop Goblin to put in the description.
Yeah.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. And it takes place about 30 years prior to 2 campaigns that I'm not streaming. It's kind of a warmonger world. To put it simply, around 1200 AD, the world got reset, and via the Black Plague and just dark magic, and the world is now slowly trying to rebuild itself. And with that, though, slavery has been reinduced heavily. There's still a lot of warmongers and just a lot of conflict due to, everyone trying to figure out what's going on. Just the strongest are surviving right now. And then my Thursday campaign, the Odd Rollers with the Governor, with Layla, Protector of Nerds, all those wonderful people, takes place in the year 1920, according to that timeline. So in theory, the year is actually like 3100 AD, but its technology is like 1920. They just are unaware. And it's a mixture of magic and technology. It's not steampunk per se, but there are definitely elements of that. Everyone's still wearing flapper dresses and trench coats and things like that because it's my favorite fashion style. And that's campaign is moving on smoothly. It's on every Thursday, heaven allowing, or hell. I don't care what you believe in.
The 9 hells believe in.
I mean, hey, if you want to worship your abyssal daddy, I'm not one to judge. Just don't try to convert me with a large sharp knife.
I won't send my warlocks against you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Though in that campaign, my nickname is officially Dice Daddy, so that's a thing.
I love that.
I'm glad somebody does.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
and I also
really
have
cool.
published. Yeah, I've also published a book, kind of what happens before the Elven Empress did all that stuff. It's going to lead up to her actually destroying everything. But I don't need it. That's not what this is about. Let's talk D&D.
Alrighty, but I do have one quick question about your books and stuff. Is there a place where you're selling your book, or is it just like a personal book that you have for yourself?
It's on Amazon, actually. My pen name is Fofan Frostwolf. It's German. Not German, it's Russian. Let me try that again, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
It is Fofan Frostwolf. It is a Russian name because he's actually based off one of my first Dungeons and Dragons 5e characters that I played years ago.
That is super duper cool. I've always wanted to write a book, and I think Dono also is going to be trying to write a book soon. But yeah,
Amazon is the place to
anyways.
do it. Amazon is
Right.
really the place to do it.
Well, anyways, we're not talking about writing. Well, we kind of are in a way. We're talking about the topic when it comes to playing it in the D&D aspect of it with improving. So, what is I asked Jay the Fae this question. I'll ask you the same question. What is your definition in your own words? What is improv?
Improvisation is the ability to adapt to a situation that you aren't expected to. And it's about being able to be quick-witted enough to make it so that you don't look like an idiot in front of your players or the audience, because improv isn't just in D&D, it's in acting. There's a whole, there's a whole broadcast just filled with improv, and it makes a lot of money because it's funny to watch people trying to keep the rhythm going even though it's difficult for them because they're not used to it. Or they are used to it, and it's just fun to watch them just like, the show, whose line was it anyway, was brilliant. And it was just basically improv and little skits.
Nice. So I know that for at least me, improv is just like chucking it in the hucket bucket and going. But for some people, it's like improv is like the worst thing to do. And whenever I talk to people who are interested in playing Dungeons and Dragons for the first time in my area, I always tell them that 10% of your like actual prep work is going to probably be used, and the 90% that you have probably never going to be used, and you might have to use improv. And that scares the living crap out of them a lot. So I guess I'll let you talk.
Go ahead. Oh, well, thank you. A little tip I have about like DM notes. This might be something we can discuss in a later episode. I've seen people write full-on books about like stories and lores, things like that, which I have done, obviously. But I have discovered that it's better for most of my campaigns just to do bullet points and have slight memorization of most of your notes. That way, depending on what they can do, you can alter it. Like I could send a picture. Actually, wait, no, this is a podcast. They can't see anything.
It's okay. You can describe it.
So on my notes, I have it on a Word docs because all hail Google. And I have bullet points doing my intro, announcements, and then a recap, and then certain things that could happen. And like if there's something that goes more underneath that bullet point, like they traveled to this tavern, I do a little like sub bullet saying, okay, this is the tavern's name, this is his class, all that sort of thing. It goes all the way down. And I even have like character stats, like for NPCs and enemies that they could potentially fight there. And if it's too big or too large for the actual page, I'll have it on an actual character sheet, or it'll pull up the oh geez, what's what I'm looking for?
You pull it up on kind of like, at least for me, I kind of understand what you're saying, because like for me, when I do NPCs, I have like a legitimate folder on my computer,
Yeah.
and I'll just like put like all their information in that folder, so then when I'm doing like my session with my group and stuff, I always have my laptop, my phone, my second phone, and then a buttload of paper.
I have 2 full notebooks full of stuff. I have my laptop, I have my phone. I used to have the tablet, but the wife wants to use it now when I'm doing live stream so she can play games.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes you gotta let the wife do it.
I have 3 sisters and a very powerful mother. I understand how. Well, I'm not going to say I understand how that works. I understand that you should let it be.
Yes, you gotta make like the Beatles and let it be. So one thing that I know that I personally struggle as a DM is when it comes to a lot of NPCs and stuff like that, I sometimes will have like dialogue that I have pre-written beforehand and characteristics and everything that has to be within that certain like era. So characteristics, personality, what they hate, what they don't hate. But when it comes to like on the spot NPCs, like let's just say a merchant just decides to come out of the woods all of a sudden and they've been keeping an eye on you, it's like you got to be careful on what you say there, because sometimes you'll make plot holes for your story that you're working on with your players and other times not. So I guess my question for you is, how would you go about making good dialogue for NPCs when it comes to improving?
So like you said, you usually put a list of things that they dislike, like, and like things in between, right? So
Yes.
like, and it's also important as a DM to know like the political views and things of the world. So, for example, if the group has halflings and like is commonly known that dwarves and halflings have had feuds for 100 years because their gods lost a bet against each other or something like that. If there's a dwarven NPC, if they make sure that they like either ignore or talk to the people, why are you hanging out with this halfling? Similarly,
Mm.
like if a here's an example. I had a traveling pet shop in one of my campaigns, and previously they had met in a awakened cat, like a tabby cat that had a crystal inside their head that was allowed them to be an adventurer and communicate with people. Um, when they first met, they thought that it was a regular house cat, and then they recognized, oh, this cat can actually communicate. So anytime they would meet that cat, or anyone with that, they'd say, "Hey, do you want us to give you any cat toys for your friend, or catnip, or anything like that?" And the cat friend would say yes because that's just who the player is. But the party was like, "No, no, they don't need any more catnip." And because there's also slavery in that world, and these two the shop owners were elves, they seemed kind of surprised that so many freed slaves or runaway slaves were kind of about. They weren't put off by it because in this world, elves weren't for slavery, but they're just surprised. If that makes any sense, like given the
Yeah.
political aspect of the world, make sure that they're saying things that are appropriate for the time. Or like if they walk in and they're just traveling and they're like if you're a traveling merchant, like you said, and you see a bunch of people, and if you have wares, try to set up shop real quick and try to sell them a sales pitch.
Mm.
I mean, if there's any vendettas that the characters might have, or if they've seen some of these people before burning down a tavern, they probably are not going to want to stop and talk to them, or anything like that. If they see wanted posters, maybe they'll try to fire them because everyone knows merchants have at least one crossbow on them, or they should, or in those pet shop owners' case, a wand of fireballs. But that's a whole other.
That's a whole nother story, and that's for your world. Right?
Yes. I mean, you can give your pet shop owners wands of fireballs. I'm not one to stop you, but it's a bit extreme.
Yeah, have at it. I mean, I just gave, like, I believe, like, the ranger in my group a grappling hook. Because unlike yours, where you said that you were talking about a bunch of, like, not how it is steampunk, but, like, it's, like, close to it, mine's, like, full-on steampunk with bits and pieces of magic.
Got
So
you.
I completely understand when it comes to a whole entire thing. I've had to improv items when it comes to shops because for some reason, please DM's biggest tip, never leave your books at home. Triple
Um,
check, quadruple check, quin check. Just keep making those stinking perception checks to make sure you have everything before a stinking session.
Kawaii.
Yes,
I do have a tip for that as well.
you
On
do.
and I do actually. On my Saturday campaign, I usually have in my notes a list of, let's say, like they just want to combat and they're checking for things. They find a unopened box. I first say, okay, roll me a percentile check. I played Call of Cthulhu a couple of times, and I love how percentile checks work. It just is so
Mm-hmm.
sporadic,
I
and
love it.
it's great. So let's say it's about a uh, 5 by 9 inch box. So it can be a ring, a sword, like a sword hilt, a dagger, something small. I say, okay, go ahead and roll percentile check. Depending on what they roll, we'll see if it's trapped or not. And then I say, then I will roll a percentile check to see what's inside of it. Well, no, blah, blah, blah. Let me try that again because I've done this differently for different campaigns. What I'll do is that I'll say, okay, you found this box, great. Go ahead and roll me a percentile check. They'll roll it to see what's inside of it. And I say, do you check for traps? And if they say no, I then roll a d20 to see if it will be trapped. If it is trapped, the trap will go off. If it's not, they'll find whatever item they found in there. And I usually have a brief synopsis in my notes.
Yeah.
That way I'm not having to make things up out of my butt as I'm going along.
Mm.
And similarly for like shops. like I said, when you have brief synopsises of the characters, and if it's a store clerk or anything like that, make a quick list of everything that they might have in their notes. Obviously, you don't need to go into like in-depth details about like the sort of +1, but like simple like look up all the items in the Dungeon Master's manual will explain what this item looks like. Usually, there are a few exceptions to that, but if you just write down a quick thing that and don't actually tell them the name of it unless they ask for it via the NPC, that way they can see, like for example, the Cloak of Elvenkind. As you pick it up and you look at it, you notice that it slowly begins to almost camouflage with the wood around it, or the I just opened up my Dungeon Master's mail for examples. Slayer sword. You notice that the hilt of this blade looks like it was carved out of like almost dragon hide, and you can see that there is a small dragon's head carved around the actual blade, near the hilt. Just simple things that will let them know that this item probably has magic in it. Slash, there's something special about this item. If you just say it's just a sword, but it's actually a sort of a flame-touched, a flame-tongued greatsword, it's not gonna be the same, or you're not gonna get the same response from your players, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. That's a really good tip, actually. And speaking of tips, if you have been enjoying these tips, please make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe button so you guys can stay in the loop for what's going to be coming next. Also, if you haven't checked out Ravnica on Twitch, or even just our sessions on Saturday nights on adventures_and_initiative, I probably messed that up again. I know I messed it up earlier in another episode, but if I messed it up, it's most likely going to be in the description below. And yeah. So, I had another question for you, Cloaked, or you said your name was Ben. Can't remember off the top of my head. Brett.
Just Brett, yes.
Just Brett. Okay. I forgot to ask you at the beginning of this whole entire episode, and I can't believe I forgot. But how long have you actually been a DM for? How long have you been playing D&D altogether?
It's a loaded question, and you're gonna either judge my family's parenting, or be incredibly impressed. I've been playing RPGs since I was 4 years old.
Nice.
And that would be 17 years now. And I've been DMing for about 7.
Nice. That is way more than me.
Well, I am no dungeon master. Can I say something real quick? I know I'm going to get on a little soapbox real quick.
It's okay.
For those of you that decide to become a dungeon master, you're still a player as much as everyone else that you're playing with. You do have control of how the world works, and you do have the rights to say that my rules are better than the ones inside the manuals, which I do on several occasions. But you don't have to rub it in your player's face, because you will still make mistakes and you will make plot holes, which isn't fair to your players, and it isn't fair to the persona you're trying to give as the game master. I know there are people that prefer fear tactics and trying to like scare your players into submission, which is a style that people do, and that's up to them. I have found it more that if you want your players to want to come and play every time, so you're not having to text people at 3 p.m. and like your session's in 5 minutes, where are you guys? Make sure they're having more fun than being a rule stickler. There are people that think that it's important to follow the rules, and they're not invalid. But if they're not having fun and they're following the rules to a T, are you winning or are you losing situation? That's just my 2 cents, though. I'm sorry that was kind of longer than I anticipated.
No, I think it's really, really good and really, really important, because no DM is perfect. For instance, I've been playing for at least more than 4 years now, which I'm very, very blessed about. But like when it comes to DMing, I've probably only DM'd for like 2.5 years, going on 3 this March. So I understand what you're saying, and it's comforting for someone that has been like really new into this, that's trying to dive deep, but also hearing other players that have only been playing for like 2 years and they've been like a DM for only 2 years, or like really whatever. Because like I know that for a lot of new players, whenever they play Dungeons and Dragons, the very first thing that they do is either be a new DM and they have experienced players, or it's vice versa. And so that's what the show's really all about. And so if you need to improv and your improv isn't 100% perfect, it's perfectly okay. My players on at least my group, I call it the Dungeon Nest. I don't have anything up for videos or anything because we like to try
Should.
to keep it a little private.
I'm sure you're a brilliant DM. You should try it sometime.
But anyways, what's really fun, and it's kind of become now a running gag with us, is they try to break me. They try to make me laugh, and they try to make me lose my thoughts, so then something can be counter plotted, and they have fun with it. Like, it's not like one of those like players that are like, oh, I just want to ruin the DM's plans just to ruin the DM's plans. Because I don't really think anybody's like that. I think they're just generally trying to have fun. But when you're able to get your DM to laugh uncontrollably and turn the whole entire story sideways in a way that's fun for both sides of the people on the screen, so like DM screen and player,
Hmm.
it's really, really interesting. And you can come up with a lot of really wacky and cool stuff. But at the same time, though, you have those that do fail. But when in doubt, I feel like all in all together, it's just trial and error when it comes to improv. That's what, at
For
least
sure.
from what I've learned, at least.
Yeah. Like there is no 100% methodology. My system might not work for the people that are watching, and it might work for you, Kawaii. It's also important to add flair when necessary. Obviously, like if someone's doing a final blow, showing how dramatically and beautiful it is when they, kill that person, perfect.
Mm.
But like if they're just walking down the road, you can discuss like how beautiful the trees are and the brook is.
Yeah, that
But
was another question I was going to ask you about, actually, was about, do you ever improv things when it comes to the nature or weather of the surroundings when the players aren't really moving? Because I don't know about you, but one thing that I've always learned is keep the players moving even if they're staying still. So then they're not staying in like a paused world type. Do you know what
sure.
I mean?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I have done that before. An example of it being is my Thursday campaign, the Odd Rollers. The dwarf was inside a shop trying to get a ring of protection. And he was with the tiefling played by my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife's character owed the shop owner $2,000, 2,000 gold pieces. Because she had a tab because her father's a major bootlegger, and she would just come in there and just kind of say, put it on my dad's tab. And she had not paid it back yet. And when they were at her mansion, she forgot to ask her dad for the money.
Oh, my.
Yeah. So while that's going on, I asked, "What are the rest of you doing?" It's make sure you're asking your players what they're doing when like two players are in heavy RP. That way they're not sitting around twirling their thumbs. Like two of them just said, "We're just sitting here, watch this go down, and thinking it's hilarious." I said, "Okay, what about the player outside who did not go in?" She's like, I'm using a sending stone and contacting my boss, and she works at that for all intents and purposes. The bourgeoisie / the IRS meets the CIA.
Okay.
Um, which all the characters have a vendetta against because the dwarf is an anarchist, like he hates the government and all that stuff. Two of them are bootleggers, and the third one is an illegal immigrant. Um,
Hmm.
so just make sure that you're letting your players know that you want them to be involved. Like if the heavy RP, make sure the other characters are aware that they have a chance to do something as well. Even though it might take attention off those two players, they have to be aware that they're not just the members of the party. Also, it's
Mm.
important to talk to your players about the expectations and what they want out of this. Obviously, if you can't satisfy their D&D needs, like if they say, I want like dramatic battles and glory, but you prepare a shopping episode because they're in the middle of a like shopping plaza,
Don't be afraid to tell them, hey.
it's okay to say no in D&D. Just
Mm.
don't say no if like they rolled a natural 20 on the picklock set and they're a rogue at level 5, which makes it like like a 28 or something like that.
It's like taking a credit card to a stinking like door and it's like pop open. Like,
Right.
it's most likely gonna work, and I actually am someone that will, like, this would be a great topic to talk about in the future, where does a D20, like a natural 20, or in this case with like what Shop Goblin says and a couple other people, does a dirty 20 actually mean success? And that could be like
We call
another
it a slutty 20 on
episode.
my show.
Wow. But anyways, that could be something that'd be good for a future episode. And if people are interested, please put that down in the comments, because your ideas are what sparks the show, and your input is another thing that also inspires the show. So yeah. And something that you brought up really good too, Brett, also was basically just like DMs do need to learn how to say no. I feel like there are those DMs that are like the player pleasers, and sometimes that can lead it down a very, very, very long rabbit hole. Where in yeah, where in other terms, like, I don't know, it's like really with anything. Sometimes, excuse me, I'm gonna redo that. 1, 2, 3. Sometimes in life, you also, in general, have to say no. And for the viewers that are watching, if you're still listening to this miraculously, I want you to just try it with me. This is gonna be a quick exercise. Doesn't take a lot. It's on the tip of your tongue. It kind of goes to the roof of your teeth. You gotta learn how to say
Yes.
no.
Oh, wait. Sorry. Can
Because
I try that again?
sometimes, yeah, do you want to try it again? Because no is
Uh,
like a very important thing, and saying no doesn't have to be a bad thing. Even when it comes to improv, it's like a good way to like keep yourself balanced while you're improving for anything, or even if you planned anything.
it's also okay to let your players know I did not prepare this. Because there are times where people will go into combat in games, or they'll go into shops in games, or travel to another plane even in games, and you will not be prepared for it because they did not coordinate that with you. Or they said they're going to do something and they do something completely else because someone said, by the way, we still need to return that ring to somebody. Like, oh yeah, but that was about 8 sessions ago and you left that journal at home, or you deleted that tab because you thought they'd never go there again.
Well, yeah. Well, anyways.
Obviously, don't be like bitter, like I didn't plan this, you guys. What the hell? Be like, okay, I'm gonna let you. And if they can tell you're struggling, be honest with them. Don't be in denial about it, because there are times where even I have not been able to improv properly because either wasn't ready for it entirely. Like, you know what? Hey, I want to talk to this small child, like they're in the middle of like a prison, and like there's a child beggar. Like I was not expecting that, and
Mm.
if I had the name for the child because, well, I prepare, but I did not have an accent. And if you can't do an accent, or your DMing style is still in the process, you should not feel bad. It's very
Yeah.
important that you DM at your comfort level, like what Kwai said. Because hey, you're right. Like don't hate on yourself. And I watch your show. It is very, very important as a DM to be enjoying the game as much as a player. If it becomes a chore, you need to be willing to take yourself a break from the improvisation, from the hassle. And as you're saying early, Kwai, like players aren't always trying to, players are always trying to have fun, as you said. But sometimes I disagree. Like some players, sometimes just out to get the DM. Like you said that your party likes to see if they can try to make you laugh and to like break, which is great and fine. That's your dynamic. But I've had players that deliberately do things just to get on the nerves of the other players. Like toxic players are a very, very real thing.
Oh yeah, and I've had like a great deal of toxic players before, and how you handle that again would be an awesome, awesome topic to talk about.
Like
But
enough stuff to talk about for like 4 episodes. Good grief.
yeah. But yes, I think that's like important to realize too, is you got to make sure, like, are your players trying to be toxic? Are they trying to be fun? And all in all, I mean, it's just a game. This isn't like, I'm going to make the World War III memes. This isn't like World War III we're talking about. This is you just figuring out what the name of this guy is and what he does for a living.
The exception to that to being is if you actually start World War III in one of your campaigns, like, and that's an actual, like, if you do a futuristic campaign, which I've done before, and that is fun. But continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. We're kind of running out of time right now, so I was gonna get started on outros. But before that, I was gonna ask you, do you have any questions for me before we close?
I answered all the questions you're expecting me to answer.
In a way, yes. When in doubt, no. I will be honest with you. Half of this episode was improv.
Look at that. We're getting better already.
There we go. Well, guys, I just want to tell you that this has been DM Junkies, a show made for DMs by DMs. Brett, where can people find you?
On TikTok, I am at justbrett, one word, and then the CloakedDM on Instagram.
Alrighty, and where could people catch you if you do streaming?
That would be on Twitch. That would be .tv at the governor. It's the 6 Ovener. 6OVNAR. That's
Alrighty.
the Odd Rollers campaign. And also, we do have a new Instagram page up for the Odd Rollers campaign. So if anyone here watches that show, like memes, we might have merch up soon. I'm not quite sure yet. The group thinks I'm crazy for even just thinking about merch. And just like if you want to do art, anything like that, that is the _odd__rollers. Also on Instagram.
There you go. Now, anyways, this has been Kawaii Alley. Thank you so much, Brett, for joining the show. This has been DM Junkies, and don't forget to roll out.